Hello, everybody. Welcome to the NC podcast. My name is Natasha Collins, and I am the host of this podcast and the founder of NC Real Estate, which includes its members club for landlords and property investors to come and build profitable property portfolios that completely align with their goals. Before I start, I have to note something. Monday, 25th January, 6:30 p.m., I am hosting a webinar called How to Avoid the Traps that are going to plague us for property investors in 2021. You want to come to that. Go to ncrealestate.co.uk/January 2021 to register on this. I only do these very irregularly. Come and join. Again, ncrealestate.co.uk/January 2021 to register. I will put the link below as well. Right. I am super excited because I have got someone very, very, very special on the podcast today. You guys are going to get so much out of it. If you haven't already got a pen, a notebook to take notes, you're going to want to go and do that now. I would even just push pause, go find it, come back, push play. So I'm very excited to welcome Ellie McKay on the podcast. Ellie is best known for being a straight talking property investor, entrepreneur, and public speaker. From a standing start, she has built a multi-million-pound property portfolio within 2 years. The power of building a personal brand and utilizing social media has enabled Ellie to raise millions of pounds in investor finance and become a well-respected face within the industry. I definitely agree with that. I see Ellie's posts all over LinkedIn. I'm always super, super impressed. So Ellie, hi, welcome to my podcast.
Oh, thank you for having me. What a lovely introduction.
My pleasure. I am so excited to talk to you about everything property investing, everything social media, raising money. Let's just dive straight in.
Let's go straight into it.
So what made you get started in property?
Oh, well, very good question. My husband and I actually first got into property back in 2006. Rather unsuccessfully, it has to be said. We were in our early 20s. We were full of entrepreneurial spirit, but truth be told, we didn't really know what we were doing. And it was back in the days, I don't know if any of your listeners will remember this far back, but you used to be able to buy a property, refinance it in the same day, pull all your money out, and it was a pretty good time to be in property. So we were sort of sold this off-plan development based on doing that. The problem was the development was flooded for a couple of years and it was put back. It wasn't completed until 2010, which was smack bang in the middle of the global recession. Now, although we went into the recession in 2008, the prices in the UK didn't actually dip to an all-time low to the end of 2010, start of 2011, which was exactly where we were at. And we found that a property we purchased for like 125 grand was suddenly worth 60. We had a massive deficit. We were contractually obliged to complete. It was just a nightmare. We had to raise an additional 40 grand in a few months. It was pretty stressful. So that was our first experience of property. We still have that apartment in our portfolio, and it's still a negative equity now. But you live and learn. So actually, we retreated from property completely till 2008, and we knew some people that had done some property training. We'd always been a bit skeptical about that kind of thing, perhaps a bit cynical. But somebody that we really respected had been on this training and spoke very highly of it. And we started following a lot of the content from this particular training company. And we did the training. And to be honest, it was quite life-changing. I had been made redundant whilst I was on maternity leave. And we'd literally put every penny we had into this property training, every last bit of our redundancy money. That was it. We had no savings. We'd been through quite a difficult time financially with our other business, and so it was really interesting. We did the property training, and I think we bought 2 properties within 4 days, no money down, of doing the training, and then that's been it. Really, I feel like we've kind of found our passion and purpose, and we've not stopped moving forward.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. So I'm going to ask you now, what do you love about the industry and what do you hate about the industry?
What I love about the industry is, I suppose you could say this for most sectors, it's about people. Now, for us, it's never been too difficult to source the properties or to find the finance. If you can get the deals, if you control the deals, you control the money. And I think what I love about property and the mindset and the skills I've developed around business is up until 2018, I think I used to buy into a lot of the negativity on social media and the mainstream media. I thought that the country was fucked, basically, that, you know, we had no money. And then suddenly I felt like my eyes were open to a completely different world from quite a place of abundance. And really, I was shocked at how much money there is out there.
Mhm.
There's millions and millions of pounds out there, people who want to invest in your property deals. And yeah, I mean, it was pretty life changing, to be honest with you. So yeah, no, to answer your question, a very indirect way, what I love about property is that the possibilities are pretty endless. And we were just chatting before we went live about different business models and
Yeah.
whether you leverage investor finance. And what I love about that is you're just never restricted. You know, when you master the art of raising finance and being able to network and connect and relationship build with the right people, then it means that you're in a position that you never need to say no to any property deal. And you know, we're in a fortunate position now where we've built our network up to such an extent that somebody could bring me a plot of land or a big portfolio or a big commercial building, and providing the numbers stack, the only thing that we need to do our due diligence on is if those numbers stack. And providing they stack, we would take as many deals as
Mhm.
with us good, you know. So I suppose there's just an abundance of opportunity. That's what I love about property. The thing I hate about property, and again, this isn't sector specific, but there's a lot of there seems to be a disproportionately high amount of bullshitters within our sector. I don't know if that's just my confirmation bias because I'm in the property sector, but you know, social media in particular plays a huge part in what we do. I'm blessed and thankful for the opportunities that social media is created for us, but you really almost have to play the game and be very selective what you let in, and look out for those little red flags for the, you know, a lot of smoke and mirrors, and that's putting it politely.
Oh, you put that very tactfully.
I
Very impressed.
did.
I agree with you. We were talking about that beforehand. What's true? What's not true? I mean, how do you figure out what's true and what's not out there?
Well, one of the things I do, if I'm being brutally honest, is I don't follow many people. There's a lot of generic content out there. I'm very selective, and this is something I'm quite vocal about. I'm very selective about what noise I let in, because we almost have, so putting social media aside, we're obviously in the middle of a global pandemic. It's been a challenging year for a lot of people, and we all have an emotional bank account, and we all start off the day with a full bank account, and depending on what happens to us, or what, you know, what external influences or what noise we allow in, depends on how well we maintain that emotional bank account. And for me, that's when I say be selective on the noise that you let in. I want to follow people on social media that I can learn from, that are further down the path that I want to travel. That doesn't necessarily have to always be business related. You could take inspiration from different people for different things, whether your fitness you're into, or anything really. But I like to see people. And I'm quite fascinated by successful people and the way that they talk. They have a solution-based mind frame. You know, they're not negative. It's inspirational content. So we don't listen to the mainstream media. I unfollow the majority of people on my social media, and I'm very selective who I spend my time with as well. So I do a lot of what you might call paying it forward. I spend a lot of time on Zooms trying to help people, support people. It's not something I monetize, it's something I enjoy doing. But in terms of my own network and where I get my stimulation, that is generally from high achievers, really, because they speak the same language that I speak, and I thrive the most about being around that kind of energy constantly. Which presented as a bit of a challenge, just to go off on a little bit of a tangent, but presented as a little bit of a challenge when, you know, we got locked up. We're all under house arrest, weren't we, for several months? But this is why you can build your network in many different ways, like we're doing here with this podcast. You know, you're over in America, I'm in sunny Doncaster, and you know, I suppose it's been creative, and a word that's certainly been overused in the UK during this pandemic has been pivot. But the reason it's overused is it's quite apt, really. You do have to if you're someone like me who thrives around being around that kind of energy and you can't leave your house, well, you need to set up a podcast. You need to start building relationships another way. Otherwise, you're going to go absolutely stir crazy. And when you do, I found it very interesting to see how different people, and everyone's in different financial situations and things like that with this pandemic. And obviously, where still people have lost loved ones and what have you. However, it's been interesting to see the psychology of different people, and those people that have chose to it's almost like the obstacle is the way. People, more wealth was created after the Great Depression than any other time. So whilst being sensitive to certain people's situations, you need to capitalize on opportunities as and when they arrive, because that's what business owners do. That's what entrepreneurs do. Ultimately, that's what's going to keep our economy, propped up, and that's going to be the backbone and rebuilding after, we come out of this big mess.
I agree. I completely agree. I agree as well with keeping yourself only focus on what you want to see. I definitely do that, and because otherwise you go mad. I would go mad.
The thing that I was just going to say with that as well, you find yourself comparing yourself to people as well, and I think everyone's guilty of it. And we I'm always saying you should focus on your own race, and the only one that you're in competition with is yourself. But ultimately, we as humans, it is natural to compare. And if you're seeing somebody constantly smashing it and what have you, it can be quite demoralizing, especially when certain people are being disingenuous. And it really is the best advice I've ever been given to focus on myself, because there'll always be somebody that's doing more, and that's great. And be pleased with them, and come from a place of an abundant mindset, because there's enough opportunity out there for absolutely everybody. But don't let it demoralize you or detract you from your own personal journey.
I completely agree. And what you put out, or what you would, take us to, we don't put out the same things. We have our own ideas. We're coming from similar positions, but your content's very different to my content, and that's fabulous. There's no real, I don't sit there and I look at your content, I'm like, oh, I wish I was putting that out. I don't, because you get to a stage where you're comfortable enough in your own whatever you're doing that you're like, well, I like what I put out. I also like what Ellie puts out. I also like what other people put out, and that also takes the angst away from it, right? Because then you're not in competition with anybody else.
You just absolutely aren't. And social media should just be an extension of you. So ultimately, no two people are the same. And I think for me, this has been the key to our success on social media. It's been authentic. It's been coming from a place of truth, because we spoke specifically about the property industry. There's a lot of sort of people that are insinuating perhaps that very experienced in the industry, when in reality they've not even done their first house renovation. And there's a difference between, sorry to repeat what we were discussing before we were online, but there's a difference between posturing and positioning yourself as an authoritative figure, which I absolutely believe people should do, and that's exactly what I did. But there's a difference between doing that and actually misleading people as well, and being quite brutally honest, like lying. So I feel that people can share value without lying. And also I found with social media, people don't like to be constantly educated either. They like to know, people buy from people, and I'm finding that more now than ever before. So like property investors, for example, are 10 a penny on LinkedIn. And generally when I get an inquiry now, it's very interesting. I'll get an inquiry and somebody will generally say, Ellie, I've been watching you for 6 months or 12 months, sometimes more than that. Really like your content. You'll be meaning to go out for a while. Can we set up a call? And what's interesting about that is always take a minute just to look through my social media and see if they've engaged with my content. And 99.9% of the time, they've never done it. But by the time they've reached out for that call, it's a foregone conclusion, because they want to work with me. They want to work with Ellie Mackay. They don't just want to work with a property investor. They know what I stand for. They know my values, because they're sort of laced throughout my content. If you follow me, and of course that's Marmite. And I think another point is, you have to, when you put your head above the parapet, you have to be willing to accept that you're not going to appeal to everyone. And you may have a bit of a Marmite personality, but I often joke about the fact sometimes I drop the F-bomb. Well, it's not deliberate. I don't try to overuse it, and it's certainly not something to do is to cause offense. But if that is going to repel someone, then they're not likely to get on with me on a long-term basis anyway. And that's the kind of relationship we want from our clients. So by the time that they do reach out, it's pretty much a case of where do I sign now, as opposed to a sales call as such to try and, convince them why they should work with us.
That is such a good point. You raised something that I don't have on my list of things to ask you. Isn't engagement changing on social media? When you look at your stats, I completely agree that I've been seeing the same as you. People may not have engaged at all with anything that I've been doing, and they contact me and they know everything about me. And I love that, but you don't know where the next person who's going to contact you is coming from.
It reminds me of, there's like a picture of somebody like with a pick, and I think they're mining for gold or something, and they get right to the end and then they give up, and if they just went a few inches more, they would have found what they were searching for. It's I'll need to send you it. It's just quite a powerful message, because I see a lot of people going out all guns blazing with social media and getting to a point, building up traction, perhaps not getting the results quickly enough because they're looking for a magic bullet, get rich quick, and then they disappear off the face of the earth. And as somebody who's stayed the distance and been consistent with social media, I think it's such a shame, because you showed such promise. But I think, we do live in a culture of entitlement a little bit at the moment, and everyone wants everything yesterday. And one of the things that I say to people who may be wanting to leverage social media, whether it be to build their own personal brand or whether it be to raise investor finance, you have to be consistent and almost treat social media needs to be treated with respect. It needs to be treated with as its own entity. It's a whole department. We have our property sourcing, we have our property development, we have our marketing. Like, social media is marketing. If you can't raise millions of pounds, and I'll hear people say, but I'm too busy for social media. I'm like, well, you're too busy to raise millions of pounds then. That's what you're telling me. You can't, you can't do both. You can't say you're too busy doing real work and then ask me where we're getting millions of pounds from. I was like, well, while you're doing real work, I'm just sat on my laptop raising millions of pounds, consistently putting in the work, day in, day out, being authentic, showing up even on the days where you can't be bothered, and still being present. And the compound effect of that, lo and behold, this is the thing. It's a compound effect. It's not get rich quick. There is no magic bullet. And when people start seeing you doing well for themselves, they want you to give them the secret sauce. And the secret sauce is you've got to do the fucking work,
Got it in one.
I'll give you free, no more needed.
That's your mic drop moment. Belly says nothing else this afternoon. You guys have just got the magic gold dust right there. But don't worry, we're going to dig a bit deeper. I love that so much. So I come across you from LinkedIn. Also, Laura Muse raves about you. So that's kind of the kind of meeting in the middle. So from my point of view, so what I see, LinkedIn seems to be your social media platform of choice. Is that right? Or are you more elsewhere?
So it's changed. So yes, historically, you're right. My experience has been, so you mentioned Laura, who's a good friend of mine. Now, Laura, last year, it was quite interesting. She raised £4 million through Facebook, and I raised £4 million through LinkedIn. And it was just really interesting because Laura was saying to me, I just can't get my strategy to work on LinkedIn. I'm kind of going, I'm just not getting anywhere near your traction on Facebook, and I think there's certainly different styles for different platforms. So my personal experience has been on Facebook, you get people approaching you who want you to source them one off-market property. Well, we don't do that. Like, that's not really, if I'm being, I don't mean to sound arrogant, but that's not the level we're playing at. Or you might want somebody to come in and do a 50-50 joint venture with you, whereas we're looking for high net worths, we're looking to build big portfolios, or we're looking return clients so we can use that money with autonomy. So my personal experience has been the money's been on LinkedIn, but my kind of objective, if you like, with social media has changed over the last 2.5 years, because when we started doing it, or a little bit more than that now, when we started doing it, our sole focus of building the brand was to raise investor finance for the funds, whereas now my sort of passion and purpose, if you like, is a lot bigger than that, and it's more around the personal brand stuff. I'm finding the thing I get the most satisfaction and fulfillment from is helping other people, inspiring them, influencing them in some way to achieve their goals, and share some of my vulnerabilities and things that we've overcome, just to sort of illustrate that, you know, it can be done, and not do it from a place of it can be done and now I want your money for my course. Not that there's anything wrong with monetizing a product or service, but just coming at it from a place of authenticity to share my truth, to help people. So since I sort of changed strategies, this is what's quite ironic. I've been asked to be on all sorts of podcasts. I've now I'm just about to launch my own. I've just had Ricky Hatton, the world champion boxer, and I've got Gerald Ratner, I've had Rob Moore, I've got Nick James, got Stephen Green, just got so many amazing people. And for me, my focus now is around networking, it's around relationship building, it's about getting my reach out to as many people as possible, because if it's like that whole thing, and this doesn't matter what angle you're coming at the social media from, whether it's personal brand, finance, what have you, because it's the same principle. It's not what you know, it's not who you know, it's who knows you. Because the stark reality is, if people don't know who you are, then they can't do business with you, or you can't inspire them, you can't help them, whatever your angle may be. They still need to know who you are. So and some days I can't be bothered with the personal brand stuff at all, but I know that my bigger purpose in life is to get my face in front of as many people as possible. So yeah, you keep going on the days where you don't want to.
Yeah, that's so true. And content doesn't even have to be that exciting sometimes, because I don't know any property investor or anybody in property who every single waking hour of their day is in doing property stuff, right?
You're so true, you know.
Like, I don't know. I mean, take today, for example. I've worked on my business. I have development going on. I have not even thought about it. I've just not been there, not seen it, not done anything, because we don't do that as property investors, right? That's not like the whole.
You know, it's very interesting you say this, because it's not, when you start to build a business, it's not about being hands-on. I suppose what excites me a lot more than property, because we've got 3 businesses, it's scaling businesses, it's strategy, it's things like that, and that all comes from building infrastructures, building systems, building systemizing job roles, having something that's scalable, being able to almost create a business in a box model that can run without you. So we have like project managers delivering our stuff, that we, you know, the tradespeople going to them. We're building our marketing department, we've got office staff, and the reason that that's so important is because I see so many people getting stuck working in their business as opposed to on it, and it's hard and it takes transition, and we are still, you basically got your £10 an hour jobs, your £100 an hour jobs, and your £1,000 an hour jobs, and as directors you shouldn't be doing anything, in simplistic terms, it's less than your £1,000 an hour job. So for me, success is a lot less about money in the bank, but every time we get offload a £100 an hour task onto a member of staff, and it gives us more time to focus on the strategy, the growth, the £1,000 an hour tasks, then that is success. Because once we've got rid of those last few and we're just about to employ an ops manager, which will be help us evolve further, then that's where the excitement comes. Because you know, and if you've got a love for DIY and things and you want to do it as a labor of love, then absolutely do that. But that's not a business, that's a hobby, and that's fine. Or you can do a couple of renovations a year and make good money. It could be a lifestyle business, but we're not looking to do that. We're looking to build, you know, big 8-9 figure business really in all of our businesses, and have something that's pretty exciting. And I don't get excited by small goals.
I completely agree with that. Completely. It's about, you know, and so then when people are worrying about content and you're like, I haven't been out on site today, I haven't taken a picture of my property, I haven't done this, I haven't done that, what would you say to that?
I just don't really resonate with that, to be honest, because it's just small-minded thinking. I mean, I'm just being completely brutal. That if that's how you're thinking, you're not working towards a 7-figure business. It's as simple as that. You know, I sort of confided in you. I've started doing a few video walk rounds with my husband on some of our projects, which is purely for social media, because I don't go to those projects unless I'm going to do a video. And up until 2020, I'd never visited one of our projects, not one of them, because that wasn't my remit. And I don't mind admitting this year with the global pandemic, it's been a bit more challenging raising investor finance. So we've had to just work a little bit harder. We've still raised the same amount as we did last year. We've had to put a bit more effort in, do some videos, showcase what we're doing more, sort of open our reach to a wider audience to get the same results, which is fine. We just had to hustle a little bit, which has been quite exciting. But if it weren't for that, it's Steve Jobs wasn't there on the front line making iPads and stuff. The key to business, or certainly my experience to date, because obviously we're reasonably new to business, but it's about employing the right people and putting the right jobs and having people who's cleverer people than you in all of those roles. Because I'm very good at identifying where the gaps are, but there's a misconception that you need to know all aspects of the job before you outsource it. Well, I would completely dispute that. You just, if you want to do that, then you're just going to take 10 times as long to scale your business as I am to scale mine, because I'm just going to keep getting the right team in. And if we make mistakes and we have to, you've got a bit of a, it's a skill getting the right people for sure, but that's a skill, getting the right people, not learning all the different jobs. Not learning, I hear people running like mid-6-figure businesses talking to me about how they've sourced cheaper plaster from this place and that place. I'm like, you spent half a day doing that, you saved 200 quid. Like, for me, that's just not sensible. Like, I suppose it's how much you value your own time.
I agree. I completely agree with that. So are you now using other social media platforms that are...
Sorry, yeah. I did LinkedIn. I was like, what's the question again? It's like, then I was 6, I did this, and then I was 7. Yeah, I do go off on tangents. So Facebook, I'm having quite a bit of fun with Facebook at the moment. My reaches went up quite a bit on Facebook. So that's exciting, and I'm getting a lot more opportunities with the personal brand stuff. So that's why, although I've not found it as useful for raising investor finance, that's not really my primary focus. So Facebook's fun. I'm just about to launch my podcast, the On a Mission podcast, which is where I interview people of influence, like some of the great names I was telling you about, Ricky Hatton and such like, and Neville Wright, and there's so many like people that know what it takes to get to the top of their profession. So that's exciting. I've launched my YouTube channel. I'm going to be spending a bit more time developing that. So that's got kind of a hybrid of property content, personal development content, that sort of thing. So I use Instagram, but I've not really sussed it out, if I'm being truthfully honest. So really Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn, and the podcast.
What benefits does being on social media have for property investors? If someone's sitting there and they're thinking right now, I'm not really sold, why do you think that they should take it up, and how and why should they use it?
It just depends how much they want to scale their business, because if you don't want, as again, just as we were discussing, but if you're just using your own money, you can only scale at a certain rate, which this was our primary business, and we didn't want to be waiting to refinance properties to move on to the next. We wanted to be going boom, 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 boom. So yeah, if you want an infinite amount of investment, then I mean, it's up to you. If you don't want an infinite amount of investment, don't play the social media game. If you want to access millions of pounds of finance, play the social media game. If you want a personal brand, if you want to help, if you want to influence, if you want to inspire, if you want people to know your name, then you need a social media brand. If you want people to know who you are in order to do business with you, you need social media. I mean, I could go to a property event and speak to 50, well, pre-COVID, speak to 50 people, speak to 100 people in a room. Or I could, I could put a post out on LinkedIn that's reaching 100,000 people. Like, all my videos will get thousands of views. It's for thousands of people to see your content. It's like a one-to-many, as opposed to see a lot of people driving around, and I've done it myself, don't get me wrong. Funnily enough, Laura and I were chatting about this not so long ago, when you're driving from here, there, and everywhere to go and talk to a room of 30 people, and you think, I'm not even selling anything. Like, this is a lot of effort just to build my personal brand. And actually, I think, although I built a pretty impressive personal brand on LinkedIn, I feel like the pandemic's really helped me level up even more so than that. And I feel like there's a lot of opportunity out there because people are working from home more. There's a lot of people still on furlough. A lot of people have been made redundant. So there's like we were saying before, yes, it's challenging times, but the opportunities out there are absolutely limitless.
I agree. I completely agree with that. Question for you then. Do you plan out your content in advance? how are you scheduling?
Well, I'm meant to. Yes, I'm off. I'm off track at the moment. Some of the property stuff, yeah, I've got a marketing assistant we've got videos edited from podcasts and things like that. We have the text done, and we've got a bank of stuff that we can put out. Same with because we've got so many projects on the go. We can kind of always do a we can do an update on 2 or 3 of them every single week and just keep rotating it kind of thing. So yeah, we can do that. But there's sometimes I do feel like it's best to, I'm kind of into energy and law of attraction. And I find that the posts I do there and then, that they're in my head, it doesn't make any sense other than energy. That's all I can think of. That when I do them there and then, they always tend to get better reach than when I pre-schedule them.
No, I completely understand with that. I tend to I'm quite an organized. I like to organize everything. So I go to my team, show me what we're putting out this week. What is our plan? Like, what's going on? I have to be very organized because otherwise I can't think about things. But it goes to show that things do just come to you and you can post it. There's no one sat there at the end of your phone saying, no, don't post that.
Yeah. I think sometimes people would wish I'd not posted some of the things. My husband's like, oh my God, what have you put that out for? That is so controversial. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's funny, the most controversial posts always bring in the most money as well.
They do. And they get the people where the posts where people are like, I can't believe you've said that, or I don't agree with you. The posts that get the most reach and most people DMing you. And that's what you need. And then that moves on to would you say to someone who's afraid to post because they feel it will look awful or they'd be judged harshly? How do you cope with that?
I think it's just a process everyone has to go through. Again, there is no kind of magic bullet to it, because the reason I share my backstory, not in this podcast, but if you follow any of my content, it's kind of laced throughout my content. I refer to the fact that 2.5, 3 years ago, I was struggling quite badly with postnatal depression. I had issues with depression, anxiety, self-confidence, and it was a very challenging time. So the thought of posting on social media was, couldn't it be more of a comfort zone stretcher? And a story that really resonates with me, it was something one of my mentors told me. It was a guy called Darren Hardy, who's the editor, or he was the editor of Success magazine. And he actually went to his mentor at the time, a guy called Jim Rohn, with 40 pages, double-sided, of a list of his perfect women, all the attributes, culture, skin tone, absolutely everything, family values. And he said to Jim, what do I need to do to get a woman like this in my life? And Jim looked at him and said, no, Darren, you're asking the wrong question. The question is, who do you need to become to be worthy of attracting a woman like that into your life? And that kind of resonated with me with the social media stuff. I looked at myself in the mirror and I thought, well, am I the sort of person I would want to do business with? And I looked in that accountability mirror and the answer was no. So I got to work on myself. And I'm a great believer that your business can only grow at the same extent that you do, which is why I'm so heavily involved with personal development to this day. So yeah, and like I said before, rolling up your sleeves and doing the work. And we all have to, especially at the start of a business, we all have to do things that we don't particularly like. And you just have to suck it up and put your big boy pants on or your big girl pants on and consistently show up every single day. And it's a little bit frustrating sometimes, because I really do think that when people ask me this question, like they want me to give them like a 5-step process to becoming a millionaire or something. It's like, you're not going to like the answer here. You've got to do the work and you've got to test and measure what works, what's resonating with people. You need to treat it like a completely, like its own entity. Like I said before, treat it like a job. Have a look, study the platform, see what's working, see what's trending, what's on in vogue or whatever at that particular moment. And yeah, just becoming world class at it. It's just another skill. One of my mentors says something, and this is true of any sector: you're a marketer first. And when people get that penny drop moment that you're a marketer first, then that's when you'll really start launching between the 6-figure mark and the 7-figure mark.
That's a really good piece of advice. How So what do you do to grow your network, to grow your contacts? Do you target specific areas of social media, or are you just putting it out and hope for shares?
Yeah, I don't add anyone. I've not added anyone for a long time. I mean, to start with, my avatar was investors. So you're looking for people that would typically have, I think, probably early on anything from 50 grand upwards. So with LinkedIn, you can target your solicitors, your barristers, your
Mm-hmm.
C, your whatever, your COOs, your bankers. So it's great to kind of reverse engineer who your content's going out to, but then I think after a while it's better to just to let it grow organically. In terms of the relationships, I think the relationship building is probably one of my biggest skills. It's getting around the right people, and for me, and I've already shared, we use the last of our money on property, on our property training. So we weren't coming at this from a place of financial security, but we realized quite early on if we wanted to get the money, we had to be around the money. So if we were going to a personal development event, like I went to Robert Kiyosaki,
Mm-hmm.
Rich Dad front row tickets. I can't remember how much they cost, but they vary from like 100 quid up to a grand or 2 grand or 3 grand or whatever to sit at the front. And from the start, we just paid to get the front row seats. You get the meals, you get the separate entrance, you get your canopies and bubbly and stuff like that. And I think I picked up, I can't remember if it was 2 or 3 investors just from that one event. And that's not pitching people. That is just conversationally talking about, oh, what do you do? This is what I do. Oh, right, okay. Oh, I've been thinking of getting into property because the majority of people have been thinking of getting into property. So you just want to be the person that people, when they think property, think, oh, Ellie Mackay, she's always popping up on my LinkedIn. Send her a message. I want to be the go-to girl for property investing. And that's the same whether it's in person or whether it's online. So I think getting around to the money rather than some of the low level, and I really don't mean this disrespectfully, but the lower level networking events that tend to have your sole traders and that, which is a completely fine. But typically speaking, you're not going to find people that have got a net worth of X amount going
Mm-hmm.
and in those types of events. It's just a fact. Also, getting opportunities to speak in front of the rooms and position yourself as an authoritative figure, that helps to attract the right people in your life, like you're doing just now with the podcast. That's why I've launched my podcast. That's why, so I can contact people like Ricky Hatton and Neville Wright and Rob Moore and people that I want to chat with and get to know better. And then we take the take the friendships, we take them offline. And like I've been around to Neville's house for a cup of coffee and things like it's just crazy. It's just crazy how networking works when you're authentically getting around the right people and building key relationships and not being a busy fool. I've always just known who to go to and who not to.
Mm-hmm. I get that. Do you think that's so? Based upon that, there is still a place for in-person networking then?
Yeah, oh, for sure. You can't beat the energy of in-person events. I just think the busier you get, the more selective you've got to be with your time and things like that. But I absolutely love, well, I say I love, I've got a love-hate relationship with public speaking. I still get really nervous, but there's no greater feeling than seeing people's faces. Like I was speaking at an event, actually, I think, Danielle, I was speaking at one of her events
Mm-hmm.
last night online, and it was great atmosphere and there was loads of boxes everywhere, and it was really cool. But there's nothing better after an event, people coming up and saying that they've been touched by something you've said, or they found a golden nugget in there that was really
Mm-hmm.
going to help business, or they've taken some sort of inspiration for it. It kind of makes you, because I don't talk about property, I talk about mindset, I talk about the journey, I talk about how to leverage social media. I don't tend to talk about the the property deals themselves, because actually I don't have that much to do with that side of the business.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. That's completely fair. Okay, I think we've got time for one more question. So, what do you hope 2021 has in store for you?
Oh, well, it's quite exciting. We've got financial targets. We've just launched a new business in July. We're hoping to get that over 7 figures in its first year, which would be fantastic if we can do that. But we're looking to aggressively keep adding to our own portfolio and start getting involved in bigger developments. So commercial to residential, new build developments. And we'll still do our single lets and our HMOs and, our apartment conversions and things like that. But we're just looking to operate on a bigger scale. And really most of the goals that excite me are more around personal goals. It's about connecting with the right people. I'm so excited at some of the guests I've got lined up for my podcast and to build on those relationships. And my sort of biggest focus for 2021 is going to be trying to build my own mental endurance and work on my mindset and try to develop skills that will help me evolve in all areas of life, not just business.
Sounds awesome. I'm sure that you'll be a massive success, even more so in 2021. Just you've got that. You have that energy. I know it for sure. Ellie, this has been a pleasure. Thank you for coming on my podcast today. I really, really, really appreciate it.
Oh, it's been amazing. I could chat to you all night. It's been fantastic.
Thank you. And thank you to everybody who's listening. If you have liked this podcast, please make sure that you give it a review, because that helps so many other people find it, and share it on social media. Tag me at Natasha C. Collins. Tag Ellie in it as well. I'm going to put all of Ellie's links to her social media below so that you can click on that, add Ellie as a friend or a connection, depending on where you're finding her, and then tag Ellie in this too, so that we can see that you have been listening. Thank you for listening today. I cannot wait to catch up with you all soon.
Thanks. Bye, guys.